If there is something of a theme to this channel, I'd say that it's trying to find the gold beneath the trash. Not like scouting out the hidden gems necessarily, but more so actually looking at games past their flaws and trying to discern and analyze what value might be there. Like how Final Fantasy X, despite its linearity, slightly broken systems, and amazingly awkward presentation, is still able to offer up a really unique and interesting world. Or how even bargain binish garbo games like RE Dead Aim can prop up some amazing ass atmosphere. Not that I'm not willing to shoot the shit if it's there, obviously, but I don't know, I just tend to value creativity when I see it, as it also gets my own creative juices flowing just as well. And what better place to find some creative garbo than Japan's very own PS1 quarantine zone. So this ain't gonna be one of those meme-ass videos where the thumbnail's all like, no, we're gonna take a look at some weird fucking shit that might actually be cool or fun to think about, and why that's the case. And then poke fun at some games. King of Crusher is a domestic abuse simulator where you Jack Torrance your way around Tokyo, smashing up all of its furniture as you go, slowly succumbing to the demon inside because a fly whizzed past your ear that one time. I'm not even joking. Japanese though this text may be, by the time I saw my crying low-poly wife and child running out of the door as I Hulk fucked the dinner table, the game had made itself pretty clear. Also, that fly is like a demon mosquito or whatever, so it makes sense when you think about it, as do the controls. When you think about them, or at least that's given that you can, considering that you might be too preoccupied with whatever the fuck the camera's doing. So allow me to explain. Every level has a rage bar that fills up as you smash Fern. Once bar full, the level will be accomplished, allowing you to go to the next one. The controls here are pretty much standard beat 'em up fare, just with more added fuck. You can kick with button, punch with another one, and even pull off a cheeky headbutt with triangle. There aren't any combos, however. Each button only buttons one one-off attack, and shit's also delayed as fuck, which isn't due to the emulator, trust me. The walking especially is, well, just look at it. You're kinda like a drunk boat. You don't use tank controls, left will still make left, as will right, but turning right from facing forward is more like turning starboard and committing to a giant arc. And where this could have made the game play like absolute ass cancer, it does, but it's also actually kind of an okay good fun time, almost regardless. There's almost something inherently cathartic about snailing about the place, getting stuck on literally every piece of level geometry only to aggressively smash it to absolute bits for it getting in your way. It's like playing an old janky-ass game and revolting against it at the same time, and that's pretty neat. It's almost too simple of a game for it to really be able to be bad at all too. Not saying that it's good either, but there isn't anything more to it than just simply running around and breaking things as your man slowly morphs into a kaiju over time. Which, looks awesome, by the way. It doesn't really change anything mechanically per se, as your inputs remain the same as do the actions executed with them, though you do get some dudes trying to take you down. Army and police dudes primarily. Thing is that you also have a health bar that depletes as they shoot you, but refills as you smash. And you can smash them as well, so you're practically invincible. The only real slight against King of Crusher, well, besides the awful controls, is that in some levels the smashable shits can be pretty few and far between, making for long stretches of walking with naught but a wee tree every couple of meters. The game's really at its best when you're jam-packing an office room or manhandling entire neighborhoods, as those satisfyingly meaty compressed 90s sound effects and the thick, blocky, low-poly E models shake and break to pieces. It's pretty neat. Fun for like 2-hour stops, sure, which is about as long as the game is as well, and shit's also fully playable if you know anime Japanese. Chotomate, nani desu ka? Iki! If you understood what I just said there, then you can get the full crushing experience just fine. Which, is more than I can say for the following game. Ever wanted to know what Initial D would be like if it had a smooth, jazzy soundtrack and Square circa 1999 storytelling? Well, that's what we got right here. The moment that the FMV opening hit, I was all like,
Yeah, baby, hit me with those saxophone solos. Those glossy automobiles. Yeah, sehr gut.
And then there was the title screen, all PS1 up in your face like... Also, just look at this fucking options menu. My god. We got the sideways text, the Persona-ass color scheming sensibilities, and the fancy OST with the FF8-like instrumentation. Holy fuck, my boy ovaries. And I guess the game looks alright too. Very fucking much so, actually. To the point of it even being kind of frustrating. Like, how do people make something like this and keep it to themselves? Fucking racists. Racing Lagoon has style up the ass. All of the weird little UI elements look more like something out of a classic Suda51 game than anything Square would have pumped out. And the random title cards, logos, and taglines forced into literally every corner. It just makes me mad that we never got this. The character designs themselves, though, are very, very Square. And they live in the city that forgot what sleep is, Seaside Lagoon. As it is not only shown off by these lusciously layered and directed cinematic dialogue bits, but also through this beautifully modeled 3D world map overview. Look at it and feel things. You can drive around here in between destination and stop at the odd optional parking lot for a story. This is, as the tagline does proclaim, a fast racing RPG. So you get the story and the shops and the encounters, but instead of battles and exploration, you drive car. Which is only okay. It's very drift heavy and arcadey, just not quite tight enough for it to have that wild and exciting sense of swerve what one might get from Daytona USA or Drift Stage. See, the thing is that you essentially auto-drift. Simply turning car will already make your booty end back up even without tactfully hitting the brakes. Meaning that when you do that, you'll more than likely just pivot around your axis and head straight for the nearest fender fuck. Typically, to turn good, I've found that it's better to just let go of the accelerate entirely, only tapping the brakes when corners get intense on a boy. Once you got that odd but workable flow down pat, it really shouldn't be all too bad. Especially when you consider that with this being a square joint, one's car will be fully customizable and upgradable in the engine, chassis, and body departments, with XP and levels following in tow, of course. Thus, leading me to believe that the handling will improve over time. I say leading, as I still hold full hope that we might one day see this release in English, Fantran or otherwise, and so I don't want to spoil myself too much. There's just no playing this without knowing Japanese. For real, even the save menus are a struggle, let alone comprehending the plot past the admittedly hilarious and totes cool all-caps English that is so far up my own aesthetic that I got a free enema along with it. In the end though, the adventures of Sora's older bargain bin brother No Not Sion are pretty darn fun to play. The racing has a really good sense of speed to it, and the AI opponents are surprisingly competent, not giving you an unfair hard time, but instead the feeling that you're always winning by just a hair, even when you're not. It's cool, but as I said, it does lack some of the hands-on elegance as portrayed by its ilk. Kinda like how Square's action games typically fare, I suppose. Competent enough to be fun and okay, but never quite great either. Mostly banking on the story, style, and characters to carry the rest of the game. And where I'd say that something like the Bouncer falls completely flat on its ass in that aspect, this honestly seems like it might actually do the job. Because, good God, I cannot compliment these graphics enough. With their dynamic layering of pre-renders rendered specifically for a single scene, and all of the sexy angles, cool fades, and sleek transitions boasting interesting lighting and color compositions up the fucking ass. Whether if it's horribly animated or entirely still, Racing Lagoon seems to always make for some totes frameable shit frame after frame. Fantran, please! I will suck your fucking dick! Once upon a time, there was an anime called Space Adventure Cobra. It told the tale of a fun, womanizing, swashbuckling asshole a la Han Solo who traveled around the universe fucking bitches, killing dudes, fucking bitches, and killing dudes with his gun arm. Can't say I've ever seen it, to be honest, but I have seen a Red Supre series on the visual novel based on it that honestly seemed pretty fucking cool. Loads of fun, strange, sexy, interesting characters, and while Cobra himself may have been a giant space gun for sure, it worked given the cheeky tone of it all. And looking at its contemporaries like Snatcher, it certainly seemed to be on the ball. But of course, these well-drawn 2D images and expertly made pixel art and hokey voice acting are totally dated and old and dumb and need to be updated to the modern 3D standard of 1995. I regret this. Man, I didn't think I'd ever find anything uglier than Tekken 1's FMV other than D, and that one Johnny Quest show that Cartoon Network would rerun just to traumatize kids. And worst is that the in-game graphics are even better. So the music is cool, but it's like a third-person corridor shooter with tank controls from 1995, 2 whole years before Mega Man Legends would come out, which was kind of the game that pioneered the genre sort of, along with games like Winback, Tomb Raider, and Fate to Black and other titles that might not hold up very well either, but at least that's some sort of shared design template that they could go off of. Cobra, the shooting, clearly does not. And so it is a game that takes place entirely in that one Windows 98 screensaver. Control-wise, it honestly doesn't start off too bad, I guess. You can punch awkwardly, jump awkwardly, and run awkwardly, all of which using the face buttons like a normal, and it even lets you run with a cheeky double tap, which seems intuitive enough. Also, the shooting itself has actual mechanics to it. You have tank controls, so you turn like a turret, thus turning Cobra, thus turning camera, thus moving reticle. However, you can also strafe with the shoulder buttons, which is good, tap the shoot button to fire a flurry of bullets rather than one-offs, but also curve your shots. In a way, I was never quite able to figure out if it had something to do with the enemies being beside reticle or not, or with just me holding down a direction while firing, but you can limp those limp dick bullets any which way, which curbs a lot of the stiffness brought on by what is essentially Doom, with Wolfenstein's level design and RE4's gun controls only bad. Or, serviceably bad, rather. Enemies tend to dodge and dance around your shots, making for mildly engaging encounters where you try to outsmart their AI. Actual game design has gone into this. Can't really say the same about the levels themselves though, as it literally is just a game of nothing but corridors and mazes. Sometimes you need to do a wee puzzle like a classic keypad door, or using a Bible to move lasers out of the way, because I guess that's how that works. But for the vast fucking majority, you get what you're seeing right now. Hallways, 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 with only but a wee change of texture and music, and the occasional new enemy type who won't be functionally any different from the last. Cobra the Shooting's true saving grace, and by saving grace I mean that this is literally the only thing that it is going for it, please do not play it, it is quite bad, is the weirdly vaporwavy aesthetic and the, what factor? I mean, you might just walk around the corner and bump into a half-naked FMV lady, or this one boss called Santa Claus, who has naked lady henchmen who come running at you like dogs shooting fireballs, and then there's also some dank dark hallways with sudden flying ghost cats or whatever, and even a really janky helicopter level, yay. Not to mention the half-naked woman with the giant snail cutscene. Very important. And yeah, the marble and mahogany textures, the jazzy rinky-dink 90s OST, and the big chunky furniture like this bar ? With the stone stools and tables look mighty Microsoft at circa 1990 who gives a fuck. And there's even a story! I think. What I could glean from it was the little bits of Japanese that I can hear with my ears but not read with my eyes, is that Cobra has a bounty on his head and so people will shoot him, but also naked ladies. Given the bareness of the cutscenes though, I can't imagine the plot being great even if you could fully understand it. The game might start off with a wee bit of novelty factor, but over time you'll see the game degenerate into increasingly tedious mazes and pacing of the very bad variety. Blast from the past? More like blast from my ass. Expeditions. Adventure. Here's what the game Aconcagua is about. Snowy adventure to be exact, as we're going to be climbing an actual real-life mountain of the same name. Mainly because your journalist ass was on a crashing plane that has left you stranded there. But, of course,
this crash was no accident. This has been planned from the beginning.
Which is a simple but effectively hokey hook, which the game manages to take to a fair few interesting places as well, as you end up accompanying a South American revolutionary, and the corrupt as fuck governments don't want none of that pesky democracy stuff, so that then leads to many a helicopter crashing, dude stabbing action bands. Also, the entire thing is actually in English. American is cool after all, as it sounds just like their American movie maze, so we get loads of sweeping cinematic pans, breathtakingly synthetic but beautifully composed orchestral scores, and scenes filled to the brim with epic drama.
Are you saying that we have nothing to do with this and we just got caught up in your fucking war?
Steve, cut it out. We don't have time to quarrel among ourselves.
Metal Gear Solid might get a lot of clout over here, and not undeservedly so, but I'm beginning to think that it's more of a simple symptom of the tip Japan was on than some type of game-changing outlier. Hell, compared to it, it even fares a lot better in some ways. The voice acting might be a bit more resi than it should have been, but the characters actually have faces, the sound design is fucking excellent, and just every single fiber of this fucker screams Hollywood. So it's a point and click, a slow one at that, as every action comes paired with its own unique little cutscene. As always, you drag the cursor with the analog and interact with the things by way of examination and Wii inventory puzzles, though with this being a game about survival, you control a cool gang of 5, all of whom having their own special abilities and inventories, i.e. teamwork. For example, one puzzle sees you using the chubby technician man to pick a lock off of a briefcase to acquire a gas canister so you can give it to the mountain climber who can then climb the thing and check the canister off of a ledge into the fire to take out the soldier guy so you can pass. Then you switch to the murderous sexy cool lady to grab a rope from a tent, pass it on to our climb boy as well, so he can tether it to the top of a cliff so she can get up there and then jump down with her knife to stab a dude. That's pretty much how the entire game works, and it flows really well. Primarily due to its rather intuitive design. Switching characters, for instance, is simply done by cycling through them using the shoulder buttons, completely negating loading times. Areas are also quite small, containing only single issues like the kill the guys to advance one I just mentioned, and you'll barely end up carrying more than 2 or 3 items between all people, making it really smooth and easy to manage. It is a good game. Very good even. It's just that a lot of the flavor text during the puzzles, like when examining items or asking for hints, isn't actually fully voiced, and thus functionally useless for someone like me. Granted, most puzzles, if not all, are telegraphed quite well, but there are certain nuances that you just can't get from simple framing and animations. Luckily though, there exists a walkthrough, thus actually making the game playable in its entirety, if only a wee bit more tedious due to you having to tab out to reach it every once in a while, but I'll take what I can get at this point.
across the crevice now.
I am quite impressed with this one. It is a bit too glacial at times, but it fits the tone and setting to a T. And while it might not be fully localized, it is perfectly playable if you're willing to put in a smidge of extra effort. And I would recommend that you do so just as well. Sure, the point and click on consoles thing with the shitty depth perception and camera pans can be a tad fiddly at times, but it's much better than, say, Nightcry, which came out 2 decades after. So it holds up quite well comparatively. And story-wise, shit's also tight as dick. I don't want to say too much as this isn't a full review, and given how obscure it is, I'd rather not spoil shit in case this raised your interest, but it has actual characters and good cutscenes with striking action and character development and mysteries and political intrigue and voice acting that isn't amazing, but could have been way worse all things considered. It is a game that knew exactly what it wanted to be, both in terms of plot and gameplay, and it managed to be that as well as it possibly could have at the time. Thus, maybe sort of actually making it kind of a hidden gem. And yeah, that's all I got pretty much. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.